I want you to just picture something for me for a second.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You are standing in your kitchen. It is just a totally normal day.
Mm-hmm.
You're holding this heavy, awkward cardboard box that's just full of books.
Right.
And a friend walks in, they look at you, they extend their hands out, and they just say one word. They say, give. So you hand them the box.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. Right?
It's perfectly logical. It is the absolute bedrock of human transaction. You have a subject, an object, and a transfer.
Exactly. It's simple physics. So, okay, hold that image in your head. Now I want you to picture that you're outside. You look up at the sky. That direction is up.
Yeah, perpendicular to the ground.
Right, above your head. Again, this is simple physics. It's just a vector.
Basic foundational vocabulary. Give is the action, and up is the direction.
So why on earth, when I take those two very simple, very logical words and I put them together, I say give and up? Why does the physics of the language just suddenly vanish?
It totally disappears.
Because if I say to you, I give up, I am not handing a box to the sky. I'm not physically lifting an object above my head. I'm quitting. I am surrendering. The whole mathematical logic of the language just breaks.
It doesn't just break, it completely dissolves. I mean, if you tried to translate give up, literally, based strictly on its parts, you would literally be standing there staring at the clouds with your hands out.
Yeah, just waiting for gravity to reverse itself or something.
Exactly. And this right here is the core frustration we are tackling today in this deep dive.
We really are. We've gone through this massive stack of linguistic research, tons of listener questions, teaching methodologies, and they all point to this specific phenomenon.
Our sources actually call it the give-up paradox.
The give-up paradox, which is really just a symptom of a much larger issue. It's that exact moment where English stops being a science and starts being, well, a massive headache for anyone trying to learn it.
Or, as one of our sources so eloquently describes it, it's the hardest, most beautiful part of conversational English.
Hardest and most beautiful.
Yeah.
I kind of love that.
I really love that description, too, because it acknowledges the pain, right? It is hard. It makes absolutely no logical sense. But it also highlights the elegance of it.
Because it creates this efficiency.
Yes, efficiency and emotional resonance that formal language, the textbook language, just cannot match.
It definitely feels a lot more hard than elegant when you're actually learning it, though. Usually in language, 1 + 1 = 2. But here, 1 + 1 = surrender.
That is because you're trying to use the logic of masonry, but we are actually dealing with chemistry.
Masonry versus chemistry. Okay, I love that analogy. Break that down for us.
Well, most learners, and honestly most native speakers who haven't really analyzed their own language, they think of words as bricks.
Right, you stack them up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Stack I, then will, then go. You build a wall. But with what we are diving into today, these phrasal verbs, we are dealing with chemical reactions.
So they fuse together.
Yes, when you put give and up together, they don't just sit next to each other on the sentence level. They react. They undergo this fundamental change to create an entirely new substance, a brand new meaning that often has absolutely nothing to do with the original two ingredients.
That is such a crucial reframing for anyone listening. Because if you are waiting for the handing over part of give to make sense in the phrase give up, you are going to be waiting a very long time.
Precisely. And this leads us directly to the mission of our Don't Dive today. The sources we are pulling from draw a very sharp line in the sand. They talk about decoding street language.
But we need to be really careful with that term here, right? Because we aren't talking about slang.
No, not at all.
We aren't talking about whatever teenagers are saying on TikTok this week.
Definitely not. When the source material mentions street language or the street words we speak, it is referring to a massive tectonic divide in the English language itself.
The difference between formal written English and native spoken English.
Exactly, the two vocabularies.
This part is just fascinating to me because I think most people, you just assume English is one big bucket of words. But our sources are saying there are actually two totally distinct tiers.
Absolutely. And to understand why that is, you actually have to look at history for a second.
Well, here we go.
I promise not to turn this into a dry history lecture, but you have to remember the year 1066.
The Norman Conquest. The French invade England.
Exactly. So for hundreds of years after that, the high language, the language of the government, the law, the royal court, the aristocracy, that was all French or Latin.
Okay, so you have French rulers and essentially Anglo-Saxon peasants.
Right. The low language, the language used for farming, for home life, the language of the street, that was Germanic or Anglo-Saxon.
So the fancy elite words are French and the simple everyday words are German.
In a nutshell, yes. And that exact divide exists today. We have this massive influence from Latin and French, which gave us our formal vocabulary.
These are usually those single, very distinct verbs. Words like extinguish.
Right. Discover, awaken, surrender.
See, those sound like words I would read in a textbook,
Mhm.
or maybe a really stiff legal contract. Please extinguish your cigarette. We must surrender the castle.
Exactly. They are incredibly precise. They are formal. They're often polysyllabic, big, long words. And because of that, they feel cold. They feel distant.
Yeah, they lack warmth.
But native speakers, in their day-to-day lives, when they're in the kitchen, hanging out at the bar, playing with their kids, we don't usually use those Latinate words.
It feels like wearing a tuxedo to a backyard barbecue.
You wouldn't say to your buddy, hey, did you discover where the party is?
You would sound like a time traveler from the 18th century. I have discovered the location of the festivities.
No, you would never say that. You would say, did you find out where the party is?
Find out.
And that is the second vocabulary. That is the street vocabulary with those Germanic roots. Instead of the big Latin verb, conversational English heavily prefers a basic monosyllabic verb.
Words like put, take, get, go.
Exactly, and then it just sticks a particle, usually a preposition, right onto the end of it.
So the Latin word extinguish becomes put out.
Yes, discover becomes find out, and surrender becomes give up.
So this really isn't just about slang at all. This is about sounding human versus sounding like a robot or maybe a lawyer.
It is entirely about intimacy versus distance. And this is exactly what the source means when it talks about that essential mental shift.
Right.
The listener really has to stop translating word for word and start treating those two words as a single, indivisible idea.
It's sort of like seeing a do not enter sign on a door. You don't read do and then process not and then process enter. You just see the red circle and you instantly know, okay, stop.
Exactly. It's pure pattern recognition. And what makes this deep dive so incredibly practical is that our source material argues that you don't actually need to memorize the entire dictionary of these phrasal verbs.
Because there are thousands of them, right? It can be so overwhelming.
It's incredibly overwhelming. But the source argues you actually just need the essential 5 to survive daily life.
The survival kit. I really like that framing. We aren't trying to pass a PhD linguistics exam here. We are just trying to get through the day without looking totally confused.
We are trying to decode the fundamental DNA of the conversation.
Let's stick on that DNA concept for a second before we actually hit the 5 tools. We established that native speakers prefer put out over extinguish. But isn't it actually less efficient?
How do you mean?
Well, extinguish is 1 word. Put out is 2 words. Why does our brain prefer the option that is technically longer?
That is such a great question. On paper, sure, extinguish wins for brevity, but you have to think about cognitive load.
Cognitive load.
Right. Put is one of the very first words a baby ever learns. Out is one of the first spatial concepts, direction, that a baby learns. These are primary, deeply ingrained neural pathways.
Whereas extinguish is.
Extinguish is a specialized term. You might learn that when you're 10 or 12 reading a fire safety manual in school.
So it's all about accessibility.
Yeah.
The brain just naturally takes the path of least resistance.
It's about accessibility, and it's also about emotional resonance. Those basic verbs, the give, take, put, they are the absolute bedrock of the language. They feel physically closer to us.
Yeah.
So when we modify them with a preposition, we are taking something incredibly familiar and just tweaking it slightly. It feels way more natural, more human to a native speaker than reaching up to the top shelf for a cold, technical term.
It's like cooking with really simple ingredients. Salt, fat, heat, versus buying a prepackaged molecular gastronomy meal.
That is a fantastic analogy. Phrasal verbs really are the home cooking of English. They are made of the most basic stuff, the potatoes and onions, but the final flavor is incredibly complex.
And if you don't use them?
If you don't use them, you are basically serving everyone unseasoned boiled chicken. I mean, it feeds them, they understand you, but they aren't going to enjoy having dinner with you.
So the directive from the source material is very clear.
Yeah.
If you want to understand native speakers, and more importantly, if you want them to feel comfortable around you, you cannot just learn the fancy formal words.
You absolutely have to understand this mechanism of sticking a preposition on the end.
Otherwise, you are really only understanding half the conversation. You might perfectly understand the news anchor on TV, but you won't understand the person sitting right next to you on the bus.
Precisely.
All right, let's get practical. The source breaks this down into the essential 5. These are your absolute core tools for daily life. And the first one is a classic. I feel like everyone messes this one up at some point, specifically because of how other languages operate.
Oh, absolutely. We are entering major false friend territory here.
Number one is turn on and turn off.
An absolute staple of modern existence.
And the source specifically warns against a very common error here, which is saying open the light or close the light. Now, I have heard this a million times from friends who speak Spanish, French, even Greek. Why is this such a common trap for learners?
It is fascinating because it totally reveals the internal logic of those other languages.
Hmm.
In a lot of Romance languages, the verb you use for lights is the exact same verb you use for a door or a window.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you open the circuit of light, abrir la luz. It makes a very specific kind of physical sense. You are opening a pathway for the electricity to flow.
Right, like opening a sluice gate for water or something.
Exactly. But English is stubborn. English sees electronics and lights as mechanical states. It is not a door to be opened, it is a switch to be engaged. So we use the word turn.
Turn on the TV. Turn off the lights.
And historically, this almost certainly comes from the early days of gaslighting or even early electronics. You literally had to physically turn a valve to get the gas flowing or turn a heavy rotary switch to make the electrical connection.
That makes so much sense. We are basically still using the vocabulary of a Victorian gas lamp to talk about our iPhones.
We really are. Language is incredibly slow to update itself. So when a non-native speaker says open the light, it sounds very strange to a native ear.
Right.
It literally sounds like you're going to take a screwdriver, unscrew the light bulb, and physically pry it open to see what's inside.
Hold on, let me just dissect this lamp real quick.
Exactly. So the source is very firm on this rule. For absolutely anything with a switch, a button, or a power source, we use turn on and turn off. It is strictly mechanical.
Okay, so that covers the mechanical world. Let's move over to the biological world. Number 2 on the list, wake up.
The universal human action.
The definition here is simple enough. To stop sleeping. I wake up at 7 o'clock. But again, the source notes the extreme simplicity here compared to the formal alternative.
Yes, the formal term, the Latinate term, would be awaken, as in I awaken at 7 o'clock.
It sounds like you are rising from a coffin in a vampire movie. I have awakened.
It really does. It is incredibly dramatic. Awaken is poetic. It is highly literary. It belongs in a Gothic novel from 1850.
Not a Tuesday morning.
Right.
Open.
Wake up is functional. It is what you actually do. And I want you to notice the up in that phrase.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Why up? If give up makes no sense logically, does wake up actually make sense?
Surprisingly, this one actually does. Think about human posture. When you are asleep, you are generally horizontal. You are physically down.
Okay, yeah. When you stop sleeping, what happens? You generally get up, you physically rise. So wake up beautifully captures both the consciousness returning, that's the wake part, and the physical direction of starting your day. That is a really good distinction. But wait, what about get up? Is that just the exact same thing?
There is a very subtle difference there. Wake up is the exact moment your eyes open and your brain turns on.
That consciousness part.
Right. Get up is the moment your feet actually hit the floor. You can easily wake up at 7 o'clock, but not actually get up until 7:30.
Honestly, I think that is my exact daily routine.
Mine too. But wake up is the primary state change. It is essentially the turn-on command, but for humans.
Okay, moving on to number 3, which we heavily teased in the intro. The big paradox. Give up.
The heavy hitter of the bunch.
We defined it earlier as to quit or stop trying. And the example from the source is, this game is too hard, I give up. But I really want to dig into the emotion here. The source material specifically mentions frustration leading to resignation.
Yes. Give up is rarely a happy phrase. You don't give up because things are going amazingly well. It inherently implies a struggle.
Right.
You are actively trying to do something, solve a complex puzzle, win a tough race, fix a broken car, and you have simply reached the absolute limit of your ability or your patience.
And that was where the give part comes in, right?
Yeah.
Even if the up part is weird, the give feels like you are literally giving your effort away. You are essentially saying, here, you take this, I am done with it.
That is a really beautiful way to interpret it. You are releasing your ownership of the problem. You are handing the victory over to the opponent, or maybe just to the universe. I surrender.
But surrender feels too big, right?
Exactly. Surrender is a military term. Give up is the personal, emotional, everyday version of surrender.
It is so much more common, too. If I can't manage to open a stubborn jar of pickles in the kitchen, I am not going to shout, I surrender.
No, you would just look at your partner, hand them the jar, and say, I give up, you try it. It is relational and it's final.
Let me ask you this. Is it different from give in?
Oh, that's a really good catch. Yes, it is. Give in strongly implies you are yielding to some kind of external pressure.
Like an argument.
Yeah, like if your kids keep begging and asking for candy for 20 minutes, eventually you give in. You allow it to happen. Give up means you just stop trying altogether. You quit the field entirely.
Got it. So give in is collapsing under pressure, whereas give up is just walking away from the task.
Exactly.
Okay, let's look at number 4. We are moving from quitting over to discovering. Find out.
The search for truth.
The source definition here is to learn new information or discover facts. The example is, I need to find out the meeting time. Now, how does this actually differ from just knowing something? Why wouldn't I just say, I need to know the time?
Because knowing is a static state. You either possess the knowledge in your head or you don't. Finding out is the active process of getting to that state of knowing.
It implies a journey of some kind.
It implies that there is work to be done. If you say, I know the meeting time, you are passive. You already have the info. But if you say, I need to find out, you are telling me, I am going to actively check my email. I am going to call Bob. I am going to hunt down the schedule.
It connects right back to that formal word we discussed earlier, discover.
But again, discover sounds like Christopher Columbus. I discovered the meeting time.
Right. You wouldn't say that to a coworker. That sounds like you found the time written on some ancient scroll hidden in a cave.
Exactly. Find out brings that grand action of discovery all the way down to the street level. It is the daily detective work of life. Did you find out why she was so angry? Did you find out how much those concert tickets cost?
It is basically the engine of gossip and logistics.
That is perfectly put. It is the engine of logistics. It is how we navigate the unknown in all these small daily ways. And notice the out in that phrase.
Yeah, what's the visual there?
It implies bringing hidden information out of the dark and into the light where you can see it.
That is a really nice visual. Which brings us to the final tool in the survival kit. Number 5, look for.
The hunt.
The source defines this as to search for something lost. Example, I am looking for my keys. Now, the source material distinguishes this from seeing or watching. And I think native speakers take this totally for granted, but for a learner, the difference between see, look, and watch is just a nightmare.
Oh, is the Bermuda Triangle of English verbs. So many learners get lost there.
So help us navigate it. Why do we say look for?
Okay, let's break it down. See is passive. Light simply hits your eyes. You see a bird fly by the window. You didn't try to make it happen, it just happened to you.
Right, it's automatic.
Now, watch is active observation over a period of time, like watching a movie or watching a football game. You are locked in, but look simply implies directing your eyes toward something.
Okay, so like look at the picture on the wall.
Right. But look fair R adds a specific mission to the action. It implies that something is currently missing. You have a target.
Ah, I see.
If you are looking for your keys, your eyes are actively scanning the room, your brain is filtering out irrelevant information, you are lifting up couch pillows. It is an active physical pursuit.
And again, the preposition for is doing a massive amount of heavy lifting here.
It really is. Look at just means direct your eyes. Look for means to search on behalf of a desire. You want to possess the object.
So just to quickly recap the essential 5 for everyone listening.
Yes, let's review.
Number 1 is turn on or off. That's for the switch, the mechanical world. Number 2 is wake up, the morning routine, consciousness returning. Number 3 is give up, total resignation. Number 4 is find out, getting the information, the detective work. And number 5 is look for, the active search.
If you can just master those 5 phrases, you have essentially covered a huge percentage of daily human interaction. I mean, you operate machines, you start your day, you deal with failure, you acquire information, and you find your lost stuff.
It sounds so simple when you summarize it like that, but, and there is absolutely always a but in English grammar.
There's always a trap waiting for you.
There is. The source material has this whole section it calls the warmth, but honestly, when I read it, it felt a lot more like a warning label. It introduces something called the grammar trap, or what it calls the sandwich rule.
Ah, yes, the sandwich rule. This is exactly where we separate the absolute beginners from the true masters of the language. This is where the underlying rhythm of English really takes over.
The source introduces this concept called separable phrasal verbs. Which, to be honest, sounds like a medical condition, like, I am so sorry, but you have a separable verb.
It does sound incredibly serious, but it is actually a feature of the language, not a bug. It simply means that some of these verbs can be, and I'm quoting the source here, split in half like a sandwich.
Okay, you have to explain the split to us.
All right, let's take the phrase turn on, and let's take an object, say, the TV. You can say the sentence linearly, turn on the TV. That is verb, then particle, then object, block, block, block.
Very straightforward.
Yes, but English also allows you to take that object, the TV, and slide it right in between the verb and the particle.
So you can say, turn the TV on.
Exactly. You have essentially made a verbal sandwich. Turn is the top bun, on is the bottom bun, and the TV is the burger patty right in the middle. Turn the TV on. Both versions are perfectly correct. Turn on the TV or turn the TV on. There is absolutely zero difference in meaning.
Okay, so if both are technically correct, why is it called a trap? Why do we even care about this?
The trap snaps shut the moment you decide to use a pronoun. When you stop saying the specific noun, the TV, and you start using the word it.
It, or maybe them.
Exactly. There is a hard, unbreakable rule in English. If the object is a pronoun, it, them, him, her, it absolutely must go in the middle. It has to be the sandwich filling.
So I cannot say turn on it.
Never. If you say turn on it to a native speaker, they will physically flinch. It sounds painful to hear. It sounds broken. You have to say turn it on.
Turn it on.
Pick it up, put it down, take it off, give it up.
Whoa. I honestly never consciously realized that pattern before. Give it up. You can't say give up it.
I give up it. No, that sounds like a computer-generated an error code.
But why? I really want to know the why here. Why is English so obsessive about this one specific rule? Is it just trying to be as difficult as possible?
It is entirely about rhythm, and this is the real deep dive insight right here. English is what linguists call a stress-timed language. We love a certain musical beat when we speak. We naturally alternate strong beats and weak beats.
It's literally like music.
Exactly like music. Verbs like turn are strong beats. Particles like on are usually strong beats. But pronouns it, him, her, they are weak beats. They are these tiny, breathy little sounds.
Right.
If you say turn on it, you are ending the phrase on a weak, dying fall. It feels musically unfinished to the ear.
It just sort of fizzles out at the end.
Right, but if you say turn it on, da-da-da-day, it flows perfectly. The weak pronoun it is tucked safely away in the cozy middle of the phrase, protected on both sides by the strong verb and the strong particle. It creates a deeply satisfying rhythmic resolve.
That is surprisingly cozy for a strict grammar rule. It is basically giving a hug to the weak pronoun.
It really is. That is the warmth the source material was talking about. The structure of the language is physically hugging the pronoun.
Okay, so let's lock this pattern in for everyone.
Good idea.
Right, turn the TV on. Right, turn on the TV. Right, turn it on. That's the sandwich. Wrong. Turn on it.
You've got it perfectly. That is the ultimate golden rule of separable verbs.
But wait, the source material also warns of a trap within the trap. Because of course it does, it's English.
There is always an exception to the rule.
It says that not every single verb can be split like this. And the source uses look for as the primary villain here.
Correct. Look for is what we call an inseparable phrasal verb. These are the ones that absolutely refuse to be turned into sandwiches. They act like solid blocks of granite.
So I cannot say, look my keys for.
Never. That sounds like Yoda from Star Wars speaking. Look my keys for, I must. No, it has to remain intact. Look for my keys.
And what if I use the pronoun? What if I use it?
You say, look for it.
Ah, okay. So the pronoun does not go in the middle here.
No, it doesn't, because look for is glued together so tightly, you simply cannot separate the words, I am looking for it. You would never say, I am looking it for.
That is incredibly tricky for a learner, because turn it on is correct, but look it for is wildly wrong. How is anyone supposed to know the difference? Is there some secret symbol next to the word in the dictionary?
Honestly, the best teacher here is pure exposure. You just have to hear native speakers say it enough times. But if you really want a heuristic, a bit of a cheat code to help you guess.
I always love a cheat code.
A general rule of thumb, and I stress this is not 100% foolproof, is that verbs involving physical movement tends to be separable. Yes, words like turn, put, take, pick, throw. You are physically moving an object in space, so the grammar of the sentence actually allows you to move the word around in the sentence.
Okay, so physical movement equals grammatical movement. That makes sense.
Roughly, yes. But abstract concepts, abstract searches or focuses, things like look for, listen to, care for, where you aren't physically grabbing an object, Those tend to be inseparable.
That is a really fantastic mental hook. Movement allows movement. Abstract stays glued together.
It definitely helps, but ultimately you really just have to listen to the underlying music of the street language.
All right, so we have got the vocabulary, the essential five. We've got the grammar, the sandwich rule, and we've got the rhythm down. Now, the source moves into a section called the drill, and this is where it really gets into the pedagogy, the actual method of teaching this stuff.
Yes, the 3-second rule.
The source describes this scenario with a clock-ticking motif. The stated goal is to bridge the gap between intellectually knowing the formal situation and actually producing the street-level phrasal verb quickly. Why the intense time pressure? Why not just let people take their time to formulate the thought?
Because real conversation simply doesn't wait for you. In a classroom setting, sure, you have all the time in the world to fill out a grammar worksheet. You can stare at the ceiling, carefully conjugate the verb in your head, maybe check a dictionary.
Right, there's no pressure.
But out on the street, if someone looks at you and asks, hey, where are my keys? You have maybe 3 seconds to respond before that social moment just passes or before you start looking completely confused.
The source calls it connection over perfection.
Exactly. The ultimate goal isn't to draft a mathematically perfect essay in your head before you speak. The goal is to connect with the other human being standing in front of you. And speed is a massive part of making that connection. The 3-second rule basically forces your brain to completely bypass the translation center.
That slow, clunky part of the brain.
Right, the part that wants to carefully construct, I am currently searching for them. It forces you to access the reflex center instead.
It forces you to stop thinking extinguish and just blurt out, put it out.
Yes, it creates a direct, high-speed neural pathway.
So let's actually simulate this right now.
Yep.
I'm going to put our listener and you in the hot seat. The source provides these 4 specific scenarios. I'm going to throw the formal problem at you, and I want you and everyone listening to give me the street-level solution. And use the pronoun. Make the sandwich if you're allowed to.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Scenario 1. You walk into a room. It is pitch black. You cannot see a single thing. Your friend is standing right by the wall switch. Here is the formal problem. You want them to illuminate the room. Go.
Okay, so my formal brain wants the word open. My brain wants the word light. But I know it is a mechanical switch, so turn it on.
Boom. Turn it on. Notice you didn't say turn on it.
Right, I made the sandwich. Turn it on.
Scenario 2. You lost your wallet. Panic is starting to set in. Someone walks up and asks what you are doing, the formal problem. You are searching for the wallet. Go.
Okay, I am searching, but searching is way too formal for this panic. I am on a hunt. The verb is look for. Is it a separable movement verb? No, it's an abstract search. So I am looking for it.
Perfect. Looking for it, not looking it for.
Because look for is the glued together inseparable type.
Exactly. Scenario 3. You are staring at a math problem. It is insanely complex calculus. You have absolutely no idea what to do. Your brain hurts and you are completely done. Formal problem. You want to resign. Go.
I want to surrender. But I'm honestly not fighting in a war. I am just intensely frustrated. I need to take this problem and hand it to the sky. I give up.
Simple. Final. Total resignation. I give up.
And you'll notice we don't even usually use an object pronoun there. You don't usually say, I give it up regarding a math problem. You just state the overarching state of being, I give up.
That is a really good nuance to point out. It becomes a pure state of being. Okay, final one. Scenario 4. You are standing at a car dealership. You see a beautiful car, but there is no price tag anywhere on the window. You see a salesman walking by. Formal problem. You need to discover the price. Go.
Discover is way too Christopher Columbus for a car lot. I need to get the info. I need to actively do the work. It's a process. I need to find out.
I need to find out.
Or if you really want to include the specific object, you'd say, I need to find out the price, or maybe I need to find out what it is.
See, even the grammar expert has to pause and think for a split second there. It really shows that the brain is doing real active work to formulate these.
It is. Find out can be quite tricky because it very often introduces an entirely new clause to the sentence, like, I need to find out who did it, or I need to find out when it starts. It acts as a gateway to the answer.
So walking through those specific scenarios, the dark room, the lost wallet, the math homework, the car dealership, you really start to see how these specific verbs are the actual gears that make daily life turn.
They absolutely are. Every single one of those situations is a completely mundane daily occurrence. And choosing to use the phrasal verb completely changes how you are perceived in that moment.
Which leads us perfectly to the outro of our source material, the section called the transformation.
The profound shift from sounding like a robot to sounding like a human being.
The source reflects on this ultimate goal, moving away from textbook robot words and toward true native fluency. We have spent all this time mastering facts, actions, and physical objects. But why does using turn it on instead of illuminated actually make me seem more human?
Because it strongly signals a shared culture. If you say illuminate, it signals to everyone that you learned your English sitting alone with a book. It instantly puts a wall, a distance between you and the listener. It essentially says, I am an outsider observing your language. But if you say turn it on, it says, I live here in the trenches with you. I use the exact same dirty tools that you use. It completely breaks down the social barrier.
It creates a sense of intimacy.
Exactly. It is colloquial intimacy. It tells the listener that we are on the exact same level.
The source mentions that we have basically mastered the mechanics of the language now, the tangible actions. But then it pivots to this really interesting final thought, calls it the horizon, beyond facts.
This is a major tease for the next level of fluency, the cliffhanger, if you will.
The source says, life isn't just about facts and objects. And that line really hit me.
It is incredibly profound when you think about it. We have spent this entire deep dive strictly talking about moving physical things, turn on, put out, or finding hidden things, look for, find out. These are purely physical, logistical interactions with the world around us.
But human life is so much messier than that. Life isn't just answering the question, where are my keys?
Life is deeply rooted in feelings. Life is about navigating possibilities. Life is asking for delicate advice. Think about thoughts like, should I call him? Must I go to this party? I might quit my job tomorrow.
Right. We have all the words for the blunt actions I give up, but we still need to learn the words that actually change the mood or the tone of the sentence.
That is where modal verbs usually come in, but the source frames this beautifully as the advice. We need to learn how to actively soften our language, how to express genuine uncertainty, how to just be polite.
Because if you only ever use phrasal verbs, yes, you will be highly efficient, but you might also come across as incredibly blunt.
Very true. Turn it on, give up.
Mm.
By themselves, they are direct commands or cold statements of fact. They completely lack nuance. They lack the gentle maybe.
So the language journey obviously continues past today, but we have successfully unlocked the street vocabulary of actions. We have finally learned that give up has nothing to do with staring at the sky, and turn on isn't about opening a magical door for electricity. And we have learned how to make a grammatical sandwich with our pronouns just to keep them rhythmically protected.
We really have. We have successfully decoded the DNA of the native verb. We truly understand the chemistry of the language now.
But the actual soul of the language, the messy feelings, the polite advice, the overall vibe that is still out there waiting for us on the horizon.
And honestly, that is the true beauty of language learning.
Yeah.
You spend all this time climbing one massive mountain, the phrasal verb mountain, only to reach the peak and see another, even higher, more complex mountain of nuance waiting right behind it.
But hey, look at it this way. At least now, when we are standing on top of that mountain, and it inevitably gets dark.
We know exactly how to turn the light on.
Exactly. And if the climb up that next mountain ever gets just a little too hard,
We absolutely do not give up.
never give up. And that is it for this deep dive. Go out there, listen closely to the native speakers around you, try to spot those pronoun sandwiches in the wild, and we will catch you on the next one.
Happy listening, everyone.